You ready? They give you a pick. The kid that was picking the picture paid 2.5 cents an hour.
They made 40-some dollars.
That's a lot back then. The family made $410 a year. That's what they made. The family.
Oh, that's Bloody Valentine, you know. It gets mad nice and cool. It's cool down there. It's Bloody Valentine.
Hey, Scott.
Push me forward.
So, put your hand up here and feel the heat. We're not.
Wow.
There's no break. Cable
Nice and cool. Yeah.
Alright guys, in just a minute here, I'm going to let you out row by row. As you're stepping out of the cart, please just watch your head, but once you do step out, you're going to notice yellow arrows on the ground. Those are going to point you towards a sign that says your tour starts here. I'm going to have you guys head over there and wait for me while I get the cart set and ready.
Wait back, we try to get in the seat. We're gonna be going up fucking floor. I'm trying to get in the seat.
What's here?
They should be on just in time to get us to the movies. Not your hair.
They gotta make a new movie though.
They will eventually. They always redo it. They will.
You ever been in Lackawanna before?
Oh, yeah, been down here before.
This one?
Did you work down here?
No.
Oh, okay.
Have you, was you a coal miner or anything?
No, but my family, we had lots in our family.
Told you it's nice and cool down here.
The valley was all on fire because of all the column. All the picking had coal in it, and then people would start fires, and the whole valley was on fire. And they had to dig it out. Sometimes it was 100 feet.
All right, guys, feel free to move down, make rows, do whatever you need to do to best see and hear me. Okay, have you guys come on down, make sure you can see. We'll get nice and comfy like we were in that
My
car.
shirt.
Alrighty guys, welcome to the Lackawanna Coal Mine Tour. My name is Alex and I will be your guide for today. Now, what we just did was come down the 190 slope in our yellow cart back there, 300 feet underground, into the Clark bed where we are currently standing. Where we're at right now is going to be known as the bottom of the foot, or the foot of the mine, and the Clark bed is just one of 7 mineable veins of coal in this coal mine. We have 3 above us, 3 below us, and each of them is going to be separated by a very thick layer of stone. Now, is today anybody's first time in a coal mine?
Yes.
Wow, quite a few of you guys. That's wonderful to see. Now, usually when people come down here for their very first time, they often think that these guys right here are what's holding up the ceiling. Absolutely not. That would kind of be like an elephant being held up by a toothpick, so they're not holding up the ceiling. What is? Well, I'm going to have you guys take a look up here. Where we're at right now is the gangway. This is just where we're going to move those full carts of coal in and out of. Where we're going to be walking along are these paths right here, but I want you guys to take a look at these checkerboard patterns. And I really want you guys to take a look at those because while you do, we're going to let a tour pass us by.
What time is it? Because they went down at 2 o'clock.
Take a nice
It's 3 o'clock hour. I'll be right in time. I have a half hour for the movies, you heard? Perfect. The mule, I said the donkey. Thank you, thank you.
Morning, it's gonna get cold, very, very cold.
I like it, it's nice and cool.
I didn't know it was gonna be the coldest. This is my first time.
You learn about going down, you get cold.
I like the helmets and the lantern there, and for I just see what's going on because I'll come back just to get them. I don't want to buy them, you know what I mean? I don't want them now.
Alrighty guys, did you get a good look at those black squares?
Yes.
Like I told you to? Alright, those are going to represent massive 60 by 40 anthracite coal pillars that we are purposely leaving in and behind to hold up the entire ceiling and the city of Scranton above us. This is going to be called room and pillar mining. If we were to take out more coal than what we left in, we can risk having a huge collapse. But there is no need to worry about that because if there were to be a collapse, we would at least have a warning. This is what these are actually going to be used for. These are going to be known as timbers or props. If there were to be any shaking, shifting in the ceilings and walls, these would begin to pop, crack, and make all sorts of loud noises until they eventually warp. That'd be our cue to get out of here immediately. Now, I have another question for you guys. On our way down the slope, did you hear that loud rushing runoff water on the side of the cart?
Yes.
Even on the driest day of the year, that water is going to naturally collect down here in the cart bed because we are underneath the water level. But instead of swimming through the tour, what we are going to do is siphon all of that extra runoff water down into these 2 lower Dunmore beds that we no longer have access to. From there, that water is going to go and flow out into the Old Portage area after a massive borehole. Then that's going to go and get let out in the Lackawanna River where it flows out into the Susquehanna where it eventually lets out all the way in the Chesapeake Bay area where we are unfortunately a small source of pollution for them because we have no way to filter that water. Don't tell them.
That sucks.
Our mine was was operational between 1860 to 1965, and for its time you could walk 7 miles in either direction. But what you guys are going to see today is just 1% of what this mine was once made up of. Before we get moving, do you guys have any questions for me? Alright, couple things before we get moving. We're going to keep our helmets on at all times. For anybody taller in the tour, there will be areas where you will need to duck. I'll let you know about that in advance so you don't bump your heads. Keep in mind, with all of that runoff water being down here, these floorboards will be slippery, and just like the rest of Pennsylvania, they are caked to potholes, so please watch your step. You guys are allowed to take pictures of anything you see on your way in. If you don't get that picture on your way in, you'll get it on your way out, because we come back the same way we came. Finally, we're going to stay as a group. We're going to stick together. Do not wander off on me. Anything off the tour route is very real and very dangerous. With that being said, we will go exploring.
I should have asked about the miner. And she asked, I don't want to though. It's crazy, just like the movie, right? Crazy. It's insane.
Alright, I'm going to have you guys come up to our first stop. Make sure before we look down, we do what's known as a miner's salute. We're going to hold on to our helmet before looking down. What we have in front of us right here is a lower mineable vein of coal, except this one in particular is all mined out. There's no more coal we can take from here without risking collapsing this area. If you take a look to the bottom there, you're going to see a door that we installed. That's to be known as an air stopping. We place that there to keep the air up on the tour route where we need it, rather than having it go down below where it's no longer needed. It's also going to keep that runoff water resection down below from coming back up here and flooding the area, and it's there to keep you out if you were to go over the fence. Beyond the door is a 250-foot drop into the next mineable vein.
250-foot drop. Gotta make sure to make room for other people. Oh shoot, look at that. It's crazy. That's what Harry Warden be digging through and running around. It's crazy. There's an old miner up there.
Alright, when you guys are all done taking a look over there, I'll have you take a look into this upper mineable vein. And if you look straight up, you can see we have a coal miner card at work. So, actually, if this were to be accurate to when our mine was operating, he's actually going to have very little to no light at all. The rock he's standing in is going to be a lot more sharp and jagged as it was just blasted out. He's more than likely standing in runoff water up to his ankles. It creates a very dark and dangerous environment for him, and walking up this slope feels like walking up broken, wet, slippery dishes. Now, I want you guys to take a look at this wall right here. That's going to be one of those 60 by 40 anthracite coal pillars that we are leaving in to hold up the ceiling. However, if there were to be a collapse, this would not stop one. So our coal miner up there is going to take the time out of his day to put up these timbers and props for his own safety. Now, even though he's spending his own time doing this for his own safety, he will not be paid a cent for that work. So this work is going to be nicknamed dead work. Any work you do in the coal mine that you're not being paid for will be called dead work. The only thing this coal miner is getting paid for is bringing out his quota of coal at the end of the day. Now, we're going to start moving along. As we are moving, please be careful of the rail on the track. It is authentic from when we were last operating. It is very, very rusty.
What's the rail? She's a good guide.
As we're moving forward, you guys will notice an orange piece of equipment on the track. Please watch your step on that. That's going to be known as a switch or a frog. Its main job is just to move that heavy cart of coal from track to track.
It's just like the movie. There's a bend. Watch this.
Entonces, dice, para ponerse a trabajar ahí, primero tenían que poner estas barras de traer los troncos, acomodarlos, y todo eso no se lo pagaban.
Alright guys, flow on in. We're going to talk about some of this large equipment we have in front of us. Now, usually when most people tend to think about coal mines, they often think about that mule carrying that heavy cart of coal up and down the tracks. However, we only used mules up until about the early 1920s. After that, they started being phased out and replaced with this piece of equipment right here in front of us. This right here is going to be known as the electric locomotive, or the Loki for short. This is what would be carrying that heavy cart of coal up and down the tracks instead of the mule. For its time, it's going to get hooked up to that massive branch you see right there, and then onto a 277-volt bare copper wire. Now, a lot of things have changed down here and make it viable to be a tour mine for the public. We have the lights on and the planks for you guys to walk on. But again, what that coal miner would have had is near darkness. The only light he has is coming from his helmet. That's 1 to 5 birthday candles worth of light at best. He's standing in all that sharp jagged rock up to his ankles and run off water. It's very easy to slip. And what do you guys do when you slip? Anyone?
Fall.
Fall. But usually before we hit the floor, we're at least trying to grab onto something, right?
Slice your hand.
Wouldn't be uncommon for a coal miner to grab onto that 277-volt bare copper wire, electrocute himself, and then everyone in the area with him because he's standing in all of that runoff water. But keep in mind, running the locomotive was a lot cheaper than spending all of that money to properly take care of the mules. And what the mine is most focused on is that loss or exchange of money, even at the expense of their workers' safety. Now, right down here might have been a little cramped, a little bumpy, but the yellow cart's a limousine compared to what they would have originally had. This cart right here is going to be known as the man trip cart. As you guys can see, it's just simply made of wood. All they have to sit on were those planks right there. And more often than not, to save money on running this up and down the slope, they're going to try to fit as many men into this as they can at a time. It wouldn't be uncommon for a coal miner to have to hold onto the side of this vehicle just to catch a ride into the mine for the day. Now, as we came down that slope, did you guys start to feel it getting a lot chillier?
That's nice.
Our mine is going to be anywhere between 40 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, so the mine is a stable environment. So, with that being said, coal miners always knew what to expect when they were coming to work. So if any of our large machinery, like the locomotive or the man trip cart, was broken, it'd be hoisted down here for them to do their maintenance work on. From here, they didn't need to worry about weather conditions affecting their maintenance work. They'd hoist it over our mechanics pit in the back, go down under, and do whatever they needed to do to fix their work. Now,
It's crazy.
make sure it's
It's like a GPU change.
Alrighty, we're going to talk about this piece of equipment. It's simply going to be known as our old school flip phone. It still works today, except it's just not hooked up to any other phone of its kind in the coal mine. However, when it is hooked up to all the other phones, it'll ring every single one of them at once, so you had codes to dial to get your point across. So, say you wanted to contact your boss or the mine foreman, you would ring this once. Or if you wanted to let an area know you were doing drilling or blasting, you would ring it twice. However, keep in mind with this being hooked up to all the other phones within a 7-mile vein, it's going to be ringing a lot of them. It wouldn't be uncommon for a coal miner in a completely different area to come over to this, pick it up, and then listen in on conversations. You can never talk about anything too personal or private while you're down here. This phone is almost 100 years old. It is authentic from when we were last operating. You guys are more than welcome to give it a little spin. Just be very gentle with it if you do. When everyone is all done, we're going to come over here and make rows.
It's crazy.
Al jefe le das una vuelta.
Is that the same kind of carts that they would use in a coal mine today? That newer ones?
The one we came down in, or
That one over there. Is that how they can get the carts that
they would not do that nowadays. That is so unsafe. Nowadays, we actually really don't mine under the surface anymore. More than anything, it is strip mining. But if there is anything still happening, which there are a few mines in Pennsylvania, they're only going about,
I saw them in West Virginia.
yeah, you guys are all bituminous. It's all 200, 300 feet under. So they're using a fancier cart like what we have now with a hoist operator on top to make sure they're safe.
Gotcha.
Your hands are dirty. Did you get that? So you're more than welcome to. Alright guys, in the United States today we work with two main types of coal. We work with anthracite coal, which this entire mine is made up of, and we work with bituminous coal. Nowadays we primarily work with bituminous. It's a lot cheaper, easier, and safer to mine out rather than anthracite, but does not have as long or clean of a burn. What we have in front of us right here is all anthracite coal. You guys are more than welcome to touch it, feel it, pick it up if you'd like to. Your hands will get a little dirty, but the surprising thing about it is despite its size, it's extremely light. So you're more than welcome to pick it. It's still a little heavy, but compared to stone, it's a lot lighter than you'd expect.
Burn full of helmet before we burn it.
Told you.
Pensaba que era pesada.
It's gonna be so. You don't know bugs,
Alright,
though.
since we came all the way down
Kill lots
into a
of
coal
bugs.
mine, we are of course going to do a little bit of coal mining today. Now, some of you guys might think we're going to use a pickaxe, but that's a relatively inefficient method. During our shift down here, we need to get 16 tons worth of coal out of here. So, instead of using a pickaxe, we're going to use something a little bit more explosive than that. We're going to use some dynamite TNT.
Nice.
But keep in mind, our company is not providing with us a bomb, and we cannot just go and buy one already rolled. What we need to do is take our paycheck and head to the company store. From there, we're going to have to buy our wax paper, our gunpowder, our wick. But even after we do all of that, we're still down here 10 to 12 hours a day. We don't have time to roll our own bombs. So what we're going to do is take all those supplies we just bought. We're going to head back to our company housing and locate our lovely wife. We're going to hand everything off to her, and she'll be the one to roll us some bombs to bring into the coal mine with us.
That's crazy.
Now, we have our dynamite from our wife at home, but we need to get that into the wall. We're going to come over, very gently set that to the side for now. And then we're going to have to pick up our belly crank drill. As you guys can see, a little on the heavy side, rusty from over the years of use. How we're going to operate this is by bringing it over, and then we're going to have to pick out our drill bit of choice depending on how far into the wall we want our bomb to go. Usually at least 7 feet for our own safety. From there, we're going to have to pick out our drill bit. They're very heavy pieces of equipment. Once we find the appropriate one, we're going to have to put that onto the end of our crank here.
That's insane.
Once we do, we're going to take that heavy piece of equipment, put it up against our stomach like so. We're going to have to come over to where we want those bombs to go. We're going to have to start cranking. And this is going to take quite a long time to achieve. And as you guys can see, I'm just barely tall enough to be able to operate this. There's a coal miner any smaller than I am, he's going to have a lot more difficulty. Now,
They barely got paid.
the coal miner might have the qualifications and certifications that say he can handle that equipment, but if he physically cannot do it, he needs to hire a laborer. That laborer's money is going to come out of the coal miner's own paycheck. So, at this point you might be wondering, why would anybody become a coal miner if you're constantly buying back into the same company you're trying to profit from? Well, by becoming a coal miner, you're immediately given that company housing and therefore a safe way to live. It was very important for those who were poor and fortunate during this time period. And with coal mining being at its peak in the late 1800s and early 1900s, if you were an immigrant coming over to this country for the first time and you take this job, you now have a safe way to start raising a family here. However, keep in mind companies assigned people a 16-ton quota. That was almost impossible to achieve. And they made sure it was impossible because when you did not achieve your quota, you were going to receive docked pay. That's about half of what you were owed. And you were constantly buying back into the company store. This is how companies would purposely keep their coal miners in debt. Once you got into this industry, it was almost impossible to get out because of this. And unfortunately, most coal miners live their entire life in debt. Now, we worked very hard to get that hole in the wall. We're going to take our dynamite and we're going to place it in there very gently. From there, we're going to make sure to tamp this with wood chips. When the hole's first blasted out, it'll shoot up at 60 miles per hour and be extremely sharp. We're going to take our copper wire, we're going to link that up, and then from here, we need to start getting back. We need to get back at least 200 feet, usually around 2 corners for our very own safety. And then we're going to have to come over to our plunger detonator box. Now, very important, we can't just blow things up. We need to alert all the other coal miners in the area that we are doing blasting. Hey, do you think you can help me blow things up? Yeah? Alright. Ever blow anything up before?
No.
I haven't either. We'll figure it out together. Alright, hold on to that for me. On the count of 3, we're going to yell fire as loud as we can and then push it down. Do you think you got this? Alright, 2 hands. We're going to go 1, 2, 3.
Fire!
Wonderfully done. Thank you very much for your help. Now that we blew up the wall, all we need to do is head over. We're going to get those large chunks of anthracite, get those in our cart, and...
Get it out of there.
Ooh. Okay, nobody panic. I forgot to count those blasts. Did anybody count the blasts?
Yeah.
5.
5.
5, 4,
6.
6. Anybody else?
Uh-oh.
It was actually 10.
Really? That's crazy.
So here's the thing, if I put 10 bombs into that wall and only 4, 5, 6 go off, we could walk into something extremely dangerous. But keep in mind, if anything was left undetonated after 30 to 45 minutes, we're going to have to take our stick, We're gonna very carefully inch ourselves over to where we place those bombs.
That's insane.
Keep in mind, we paid for these with our own money, and we might not have the money to buy any more. We're gonna make sure to reuse whatever we can to save our cash. Now, we have two new problems as if we did not have enough already. Natural gas likes to hang out in the walls down here, and we just blew up the wall. Now that natural gas can very well be in our work area. We have two main types to worry about. We're gonna have methane gas that'll hang out on the ceiling. Dangerous for us because if a flame comes into contact with it, it can cause a huge explosion. We also have carbon dioxide to worry about, also nicknamed fire damp. That's going to hang out on the floors. That's dangerous for us because that can cause us suffocation. Now, enter this piece of equipment right here. This is known as the Davy safety lamp. This was invented in 1815 by Sir Humphrey Davy of England. If you're looking for that methane gas, you would raise this lamp up high. If you found the flame was rising to the top, you would know that's present in your work area. However, if you were looking for that carbon dioxide, you would bring that down low. If that flame were to choke out on you, you would know that's in your work area. However, it had a very fatal flaw to it. If you were looking for that methane gas, you rose this up high, and that rising flame startled you. If you were to bring it down too quick, that flame can still quiver and jump out through the top and still cause a huge explosion. However, we had a much safer way of detecting natural gases. Do you guys know what I'm going to say?
Yes.
The canary. Good job. This little guy right here, the canary. He can breathe up to 200 times faster than we can. His lungs take up 15% of his body. Ours only take up 5. He's going to be able to breathe in and detect those natural gases way before we can. Now, he's a bright yellow. He's easier to spot in this darkness, and he's known to be a happy little guy. He's constantly singing and jumping perch to perch. However, while you're working, if you look up at your bird and you notice he's gone silent, he's wobbling, falling off that perch, you're going to take your bird and alert your mine foreman immediately. From there, that vein is going to be evacuated, and then once evacuated, that area will be blown out for 2 to 3 hours with these massive fans circulating the air. If you didn't get your quota out in what could have been a very short day, you're probably receiving no payment at all for the labor you have already put in. Even at the end of the day, you're going to make sure to take your bird out with you. Most coal miners individually own their very own canary. You're going to make sure to take extra good care of them because that little guy could save your life down here. Now, before we get moving on, do you guys have any questions for me? All right. Those guys are a little spooky, right?
Yeah.
No need to worry.
Miners work,
All
in
mannequins.
them days, they work for free.
They very well could have. Some companies didn't even pay real money. They paid company currency. So,
Sure, you'd have to use it with the company. It's ridiculous.
all for the company's
If you had a
sake.
house, though.
I'm going to have you guys make a row for me so I can get to the front, and we'll keep moving in.
Cool, right? Just watch where you're going, please. I don't want you tripping and falling. You get fucked up.
Why did we do it? Watch your step, baby.
Watch that stuff soft there.
That's dangerous.
You guys here. Now, wheels a cross between a donkey and a horse, he's going to be stronger and hardier than the other two animals. And because of crossbreeding, immune to a lot more diseases, which made him the animal of choice to work at the coal mine. At the beginning of this boy's shift, he's going to head down to the stables. He's going to get his mule geared up and ready to go. However, keep in mind, it wasn't until the early 1900s that we even began bringing mules out of the coal mine in the first place. Before that, once they were down here, they lived their entire life in the mine in complete darkness. And because of that, they would unfortunately go blind. They're also known to be extremely stubborn animals, so if he didn't want to come out of the stable, this boy's going to have to coax him out. Now, he's going to maybe try to offer him some treats like apples, pears, and oats, but if he still doesn't want to move out of the stable, the boy has a very special treat in store. That special treat is going to be chewing tobacco. They would get their mules purposely addicted to nicotine because sometimes that would be the only thing enticing them out of their stable for the day. Once he is finally out of the stable, he's going to get hooked up to this massive cart of coal you see back here. A full cart of coal completely filled to the rim can be about 4 tons. Our mule is strong, but he's not going to be strong enough to carry all of that weight. As we're moving into the coal mine more, we are actually moving slightly uphill. So what the mule is going to do is work with gravity, guiding this heavy cart up and downhill. However, gravity is not at all foolproof. It's very easy for this cart to go out of control. If that were to happen, this boy's secondary job is going to kick in. I want you guys to take a look at his hand. What he's holding is going to be known as a scrag stick. That's just a sharpened piece of oak wood he's going to bring down here with him all on his own. He probably picked this up from his backyard or the woods nearby. Then, if this heavy cart of coal were to go out of control, he's going to hear the words from an older coal miner, "Quick, snag the wheel!" That's this boy's cue to take that stick and run across these dark, slippery tracks all the way over to this out-of-control 4-ton coal cart. From there, he's going to have to try to take that small stick into that tiny wheel as it is out of control. Note the conditions. It's very easy for him to miss in this darkness. He can accidentally stick his fingers in there too far. He can fall in front of this cart and be crushed. It was not common for a boy in his position to make it to his adulthood with a full hand intact. However, they had a seemingly endless supply worth of little boys willing to work in the coal mine to keep company housing for their families back at home. Why would they go to a locksmith, have them design locks, bricks, get them installed on the cart? That would be a hefty fee when these boys were willing to work for so cheap. Now, I'm going to have you guys take a step over here. What we have in front of us right here is a natural fault line that opened up here in the coal mine. It is extremely beautiful, however, extremely dangerous. This is the worst place you could be doing work. Under here, you are going to be at your highest risk of collapse. And you would not even have a warning of that collapse. As you can see, the ceiling is so high, there's no way to securely place a timber or a prop. And if you happen to get caught in a collapse like this man right here was, you're going to have to do what he was taught to do. You're going to have to move your hands up through that rubble until you start to feel the air hitting your skin. And once you do, you're going to have to keep your fingers moving. If there were another coal miner to come by, seeing if anybody needed help, and he found your hand was limp like that, he's going to assume the worst has already happened to you, and you might not get pulled out until the end of the day because you're no longer an urgent issue. For your best chance at an immediate rescue, you were constantly moving your fingers to signify that you were still alive under there. Now, before we get moving on, do you guys have any questions for me? All right, we're going to keep moving now. This is where most of the runoff water in the coal mine is going to sit, so please, again, watch your step on these floorboards. They are very slippery.
When he smashes the lights, you heard? Yeah, and he's all been smashing. Yeah.
Hopefully there's lots of runoff water that would take it there.
It's awesome though. This is awesome.
No, they're not always tall, are they? They have to lay down sometimes to get down and tuck it down. Because I think when we were in Kentucky, that's a lot of cool stuff like that.
So this is like an area where carts would have been moved up and down in. So that's the main area. It's not, actually, we're going to see purpose like that right
sick of
That's
it.
the best job, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, probably about 4 times more. It depends on the point. Make sure everybody gets to take a peek. What we're looking at right now is going to be known as the pegboard shanty. This is where our boss, or the mine foreman, is going to be spending his shift. Now, before any of the coal miners come down, he's going to come down about 2 hours in advance, walk up and down this vein, and check for natural gases. Once he deems it safe, he'll allow the coal miners to begin their day. At the beginning of your day as a coal miner, he'll come down to his office, and then you're going to head over to that pegboard on the side there. Now, if you guys take a close look at that pegboard, there are all names of miners that did at one point work in this coal mine. Once you locate your name on there, you're going to move your peg from out to in, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't get moved back to out, it's going to be on your boss to figure out why. Now, hopefully you don't get injured while you're down here, because they're not going to run the cart up for one person. That's a huge loss of money for them to shift unpaid with that injury. And hopefully it wasn't an injury that required immediate medical attention, because it was not until the early 1920s that we started bringing nurses and infirmaries into anthracite coal mines. Before that, you were again stuck sitting with that injury, and if you happen to pass away from it, one of 2 things can happen. You're either going to call your wife down on the next shift to tend to your body from there, or they're going to wait until the end of the day. They're going to take that deceased body, wrap it in a blanket, take it out and back to the company housing, and leave it on the porch without a word. They don't want to deal with sad wives or crying children. They just want that family evicted immediately, because now they're wasting the coal company's resources. That family would get evicted next day unless there was maybe a little boy in that household who can now come down into the coal mine and take a job to keep that company housing for his family. Unfortunately, before we had child labor laws, and seeing a boy as young as 5 years old is now going to be the main provider and the head of the household for that family. This is unfortunately how so many children found themselves working in these dangerous conditions.
It's crazy.
Now, before we get moving on, do you guys have any questions for me?
Be like a kid that big.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
It's
we're going
insane.
to keep moving on
Insane.
then.
Thank God I wasn't around now. For real, it'd be the worst job. Here, how many times they did not get paid? I had to pay their own money. It's fucking crazy. You do what you gotta do for a house if you're broke, for your family. It's rough. Where's Harry Warden?
Because they do that in the camera. Let's see him go freak out.
Crawl spaces.
Yep. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So at what point do we meet Harry Warden? With the ice pick and the gas mask? You know?
Well, that's actually the VIP.
She was suggesting, literally, I don't know how dangerous it is down here, but for Halloween you should do like Bloody Valentine in the mines.
But then somebody would get scared
And
then they'll go
take
bang,
off, I got
right
you.
into the wall.
Yeah, 'cause it would be perfect, perfect.
All right, flow on in, guys. Come up to the fences if you'd like to. Make sure you get a good look up here. What we're looking in front of us right now is going to be known as a belly vein, and it's going to be called that because it's such a tight spot. You're either stuck working on your back or on your belly like these guys are. Now,
For
in front of us,
hours.
this is actually extremely inaccurate. There would never be 2 men working together in the coal mine. It is every man for himself down here. Now, you guys might be looking up there and wondering, oh gosh, how are they handling that tight area? But this is actually where the coal miners wanted to be. It's the safest place they could be working. Their helmets are not made up of the same material ours are. Their helmets are only a very thin, leathery, canvas-like material. They were working in a large open space with a high ceiling, and something came down on their head, they would be severely injured. But if something came down on their head from only this distance, they're more often not going to be okay. And with this being such a tight spot, you can see our timbers and props are a lot smaller, which means they're a lot easier to put up, a lot less time consuming, which means they can quickly get back to coal mining, which is actually what's getting them paid for the day. Unfortunately, though, the trade-off for this safety was working in such a tight spot, these men would develop arthritis at very early ages, such as their late 20s, and they would be forced to retire early.
Early
Now,
20s.
I want you guys to look straight up this slope. Come closer if you need to. Sitting about 250 feet up is lights. Now, after where the lights are placed, the slope does keep going up. However, we don't actually know the end of this because that's where the air starts to get extremely thin. We can no longer safely explore it. With that going up such a high distance, these men do not carry handfuls of coal up and down. What they're going to do is use this machine right here. This is going to be known as a shaker chute. They can get this up as high as they needed to by adding additional panels. And when they're ready, they would turn this machine on. If you take a look under this machine, there is a massive spring that will begin to shake. That in turn is going to make these panels vibrate, and from there, all they had to do was shovel the coal that they had mined out onto those panels. That coal is going to jump all the way down below into a cart they would have waiting for it at the bottom. Now, before we get moving on, do you guys have any questions for me?
What was the thing that you said that we had to do?
Oh, the lights. Look at that. The lights. Do you see them? Yep, those are 250 feet up.
Wow.
Alright, I have a question for you guys. Do you start to feel that cold breeze when we came over here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? We're going to learn a little bit about where that's coming from. We're going to learn about how the air circulates in the coal mine. Going forward, the rock top hangs extremely low. Please watch your head from this point forward. Alright, do we have everyone? Yes. Alrighty. Now, what we have in front of us right here is going to be the very youngest worker in the coal mine. He's anywhere between 7 and 9 years old, but he has been documented as young as 5. He is going to be known as our little nipper boy. What he's going to do is sit on his bench right here and listen out for the clickety-clack of the track of that mule bringing a cart of coal through. Once he hears that noise, that'll his cue to run up and jump to those doors that we just came through. However, for its time, it's not going to be a nice light sheet metal like those ones are. It's going to be one solid oak wood slab. This little boy is going to have to use all of his might to quickly open up that heavy door, allow that mule to enter, and then promptly close the door, run to the other end, and repeat the process. Now, where we are standing right now is known as the airlock, and by opening and closing these doors, he can somewhat control where the air is flowing to in the veins. Most of the air that we are breathing came down the 190 slope with us, and that's going to be pulled to the very end of the vein as quickly as possible. So if he happened to make a mistake and he leaves the door on this end open and he allows a mule to enter on this side, all of the air in this vein is now being pulled to the very end. So if we have a coal miner, say in that upper belly vein we were just looking at, his air is being pulled down and he can now potentially suffocate. For being as young as 5 years old, he had a very important job of keeping a lot of adult coal miners alive.
Yeah.
And even though he is so young, he's still expected to work that full 10 to 12 hour shift down here. At his age, it's extremely easy to be tired or distracted, and if he's not paying attention and he happens to miss his cue, that is not going to end well for him. Keep in mind, the mules go blind from living in this complete darkness, and if he is not paying attention, that mule's going to blast right into that door. And that door can fall back on him, and he can be severely injured. If he happened to be okay after an injury like that, it'd be questionable if he had a job to come back to, because that mule is going to be on a much higher ranking in the company than he is, because it actually costs the company money. So, if he happened to injure that animal, he will lose his job. Now, what he's holding in his lap right here is going to be his aluminum pail. That's where he's going to keep his lunch for the day. It's going to keep everything nice, safe, and refrigerated for him, and it's also going to keep all the coal dust, runoff water, and rats out of his food. Now, the coal miners would have thousands of rats down here with them at all times, but it was okay. They loved the rats, so much so that they would bring down pieces of scrap food to ensure that they were fed so they would stick around. Those rats can feel any shaking, shifting in the ceilings and walls way quicker than a timber or a prop could. So if our little guy was sitting right here and a huge horde of rats comes running down these planks, he's going to get up and follow after them, no questions asked. Those rats are going to know something horrible like a collapse has happened way later down the vein. Now, before we get moving on, do you guys have any questions for me? All right, we're going to move forward.
It's crazy.
Alright, before we go through these doors, on the other side is a massive fan. That fan can hold to 22,000 cubic feet of air per minute, so more than enough to keep all of our air down here safe and circulated for us. Now, the force of this fan is so strong, it's going to pull the door behind us completely shut. It is a loud noise, so I don't want you guys to get scared.
What the fuck?
crawl up top really quick. Now again, this is a loud noise. Yep. And once they hear that noise up top, they're gonna lower a capsule down through
They
this
want the
area.
fucking air.
It's gonna be a very small capsule. You can maybe fit maybe an adult and a baby in there at a time. It's gonna be about a 10-minute round trip where we all eventually would make it to safety. Now, we did walk uphill. We're around 250 feet from the surface right now. If you were to walk up these stairs and look straight up, you see that this has amount of light poking through. Obviously, you will get a little wet if you do this, but if you step up there and you have long hair like I do, you're gonna see that it's gonna get pulled straight up by the force of the man. So if anybody would like to give it a try, you're more than welcome to.
Wanna try? You like that? Just suck your hair out. That's all wet.
Watch your step, okay?
That's very dangerous.
Flip it up, flip it.
Oh, I see it.
There goes a little bit.
You got big hair.
Yep. When you have big hair, you gotta
Oh,
slow
be
it
careful.
in.
Kids, no fear.
Watch your step.
Whoa!
There it is. Alright, would anybody else like to give it a try? There you go.
It's pretty strong, even though they're lower.
Great. One more time, and then we'll keep moving, okay? Come on up, watch your step going in again. There you go, flip it. There you go, flip it. Alright, we're gonna keep moving.
I wouldn't step on that shit.
Alright, guys, hold on, then we're gonna.
We need no air conditioning down here.
If anybody would like to come down this side, you're more than welcome to. Watch your head since you're taller.
Nice. Yeah, this breeze was great.
All right, what we have in front of us right here is that cart of coal you're working with during your 10-12 hour shift as a coal miner. During that time, you're expected to get 4 of these completely filled and topped off out of the coal mine. This is again 16 tons worth of anthracite coal. It purposely an almost impossible quota. They wanted to make sure it was impossible to achieve because when you did not bring out your quota, you were receiving dock pay, and that's about half of what you're owed. This is how companies would purposely leave their workers in debt. What we have in front of us right here is not a full cart of coal by any means. This right here is actually considered lazy work. There are very few large chunks of anthracite coal in here, and this cart is primarily filled up with coal dust, which is something you did not get paid to bring out. What your boss is going to do is he's going to come over to your cart, carefully inspect it, put his elbow down, and then make a fist. That anthracite did not come up to his knuckles. You are going to receive docked pay. Now, say you went above and beyond, you pulled out more than your quota. That's amazing. You do not get paid extra for that work. There was no reason to do such a thing. And say you put in a very hard day's worth of work and you actually managed to get out your quota. Well, if your boss didn't like you, he can come over to you at the end of the day and say something along the lines of, hey, while we were emptying that cart of yours, we couldn't help but notice it was completely filled with stone. We don't pay you to pull out stone, and he can still dock your pay even if this wasn't true. Before we had labor laws, it was very easy for your boss just to take advantage of you, and if he didn't like you, he can fire you without a word. Unfortunately, you're going to put up with this because you might really need that company housing for you and your family. Now, right there where our Spider-Man gloves are standing, there are tags on the cart. Those tags going to identify your cart as your own as a coal miner. However, those tags are very easy to pull off. It wouldn't be uncommon for a coal miner from a different area to wander over looking for an unattended cart and then try to switch out the tags with his own to steal your work.
Yeah.
To prevent this, a smart coal miner is going to paint his numbers on the side, bottom, and base of this vehicle, so as it was emptied out, if it was stolen, he would still get credited for the work he has done. Now, before we get moving to the end, do you guys have any questions for me? All right, we're going to pass by what is known as a dead chute. It's another example of dead work. If you didn't have access to a shaker chute, you would have to build your own. Before we shut down as an operational coal mine. The only reason why we did shut down was because during this time period we're switching over to cheaper, more efficient forms of fuel and heat. There was no reason to keep this expensive and dangerous operation running any longer. So we shut down and immediately started renovating into the tour mine that you all saw today. Our renovations took about 5 years and we again opened in the early 1970s and been operating ever since. Now, it's alright with all of you. I'd love to give you the authentic coal mining experience and we can see what it's like with the lights out. I'm not hearing anyone say no.
Yeah, let's do it.
Alright, have you guys going a little closer? If you have phones, flashlights, just cover them for a moment. Any light in this darkness shines like a beacon. For your best view, I will have you look at that end. If you look the other way, it's the light at the end of the tunnel. We are going to do this on the count of 3. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
We're going to go
1, 2, 3. Imagine if you just had a
And I'd like to have your attention on this wall right here. What we have in front of us is going to be about our 1 to 5 birthday candles worth of light coming from
That's
our
so
light.
crazy.
Now, you might be wondering how to get any work done down here. Well, this entire wall that we're looking at in front of us is all anthracite coal, and it's very easy to tell because under any little bit of light, it's going to shine very easily. This is why coal miners would call anthracite coal black diamond. It is very easy to spot compared to our matte stone on the ceiling here. Now, you always want to make sure you come down here extra prepared because if you were to run out of oil in this darkness, that would not be good. The only thing left that you could possibly do is try your best to find those rails, and once you did find that rail, you'd have to put your boot down on it and try to inch out for, again, what could be 7 miles at a time, and extremely dangerous because you can accidentally end up in a blasting zone. Now, I did say we're doing the authentic coal mining experience. We're going to pretend we ran out of oil. Go ahead and put your foot on the rails. We're going to start moving back.
Where's that light coming from?
Yeah, she's tripping.
All right.
She's bugging. The hell no, I wouldn't. You slip and fall and crack your head open. Great tour. Not a ride back. Sorry, I keep bumping into these poor ladies. It's only $10. It's ridiculous, you heard? Of course. I did it over 10 years ago, almost 9 years, no, 10 years ago. It was fun, same exact thing. I just love the vibe, how it's cool and the lights. Bloody Valentine.
I would say it's more like the first one.
It is. A picture of those. You get lemonade or Mountain Dew? Mountain Dew's usually
I say
good.
use Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to go yet, like, no.
So 10 is supposed to be awesome. Starts at 4:15, so we should be right on time.
Where must be hiding?
Waiting for Valentine's Day.
Or even for Valentine's Day, that'd be
There's the water. That's the part right now we're going up. We'll get a couple minutes. So the water's always running. It goes up a lot quicker than down. And all this is those two wires. That's it. Two wires right there pulling it. Nice. Yeah, I see it's cruising. Hell yeah. Yeah, we're cruising. Let's see when we get to the top.
Mamá, mira, mamá, yo me bajé aquí para protegerme.
like any smell would scare me while I'm down there. Like any like certain smell.
I see light.
Sí, ya abajo la.
Well, we gotta get to the car and get the fuck out of here. Here comes the heat, Aaron. There's the fucking heat again. I see light. Come to the light, Caroline. Come to the light.
That's poltergeist.
Oh, there's the light.
You think they ever would do that too? Somebody needs to redo poltergeist for a good way.
They're back. That's crazy. We're mad underground, dude.